All right. What if we watch this, boys? What if we watch this? The world of Riot's MMO is already done. Did you guys know that Riot is coming out with an MMO? So Riot is coming out with an MMO. Riot is the same organization that runs League of Legends. They're also the ones that were associated to Arcane, which was the Netflix show, and I believe Arcane is a little based off of what they're going to be doing with their MMO. When we talk about MMOs, one of the first questions that I always hear is it a WoW killer? And I'm going to be honest, out of majority of studios that I see out there or any of the other projects that are coming down the line that I'm aware of, Riot's MMO is probably one of the closest to being able to do that. I don't know why. It's a vibe that I get. It's a I just think that they do a lot of things well and they're smart with their business actions. So I really think that the way that they've approached and built up their company from the beginning, like, it's, we'll see if it's dog shit, but I feel like they do a lot of things right. I mean, anything else that they've gotten into has been doing amazing. So let's go ahead and watch this.
In the past, MMOs were regarded as the godfathers of games. They were the peak of what developers could accomplish.
Buddy, that's what I'm talking about. Look at these PJs. Let's go.
Even though
nothing like having 1.5 million views and wearing
MMOs had the power to create PJs. Following, but also everyone knew making MMOs was hard. On average, an MMO has to spend at least 6 years in the baking before it can get anywhere near being good. But that didn't stop companies from
MMOs
jumping onto the bandwagon anyway. And soon we could see dozens of new MMOs, all releasing in 2008, all being called the WoW killers. Spoiler alert,
everyday Yo, me too as a content creator.
And unfortunately, we can feel the ripple effects even now. It got to a point where every time a new MMO is announced...
Literally, dude. You want to talk about PJs? That's what I'm talking about! Yeah! The content creator! Dress attire. We got ourselves PJs.
We all think the same thing. Oh. Anyway, when you're working on an MMO, you have to respect 3 pillars. Gameplay is king, social interactions matter, and the world setting is important. When Riot announced their MMO, it became clear that 2 of the pillars are being respected.
I have like a handful.
The third one is already done. When it comes to the gameplay, it is currently in the hands of Ghostcrawler, someone who's been working on WoW during its best times.
I heard that Mr. Llama's working on something, isn't he?
Hating boomkins and loving mages.
That's really cool.
When it comes to the social interactions, it is a dance between the developers and the players. A dev can guide players towards social interactions, or they can annihilate them. And after that, the players usually find their own fun in social interactions. It is a dance between the developers and the players.
It's funny.
A dev can guide players towards social interactions, or they can annihilate them.
Such a shot at the raid
fighter.
fighter.
That, the players usually find their own fun inside the MMO. From that point on, the devs should do everything in their power to support the players having fun in their own way. And finally, when it comes to the world of an MMO...
You know, I'm going to stop it right there. Players having fun in their own way, and I think so many companies miss this. I think so many companies try to force people to enjoy what they want them to enjoy rather than giving them so many things. Like when you think of an MMO, massive multiplayer online world, give us things to do. You don't have to funnel us into one path. Give us a shitload of paths and allow us to be the deciders of what we want to enjoy our time with. I think too many games try to control what people are enjoying in their MMO. You need to give us a bunch of different pillars in your game to enjoy.
In Riot's case, it's done. And it's been finished for quite a few years now.
So this is the world.
The world of Riot's MMO is in such a good state. They already have the continents, the zones, the cultures, and the races. And to a lesser degree, every zone already has its own storyline. Now, of course, unless
all the different worlds here.
League of Legends, you wouldn't know about this. And that's why I decided to make this video. I want to show you all the zones we are going to see in the MMO and what sorts of quests we are going to do there.
I'm already getting excited.
So, for the purpose of this video, I will assume you have no idea what League of Legends is about. You have no idea what the universe is about, but you like MMOs, your hairline is receding, and you have a crippling fear of Nintendo 64 controllers.
Hey, man. Hey. Listen. I was enjoying the video up until that comment. Not receding. Okay? I'll have you know, sir, that this isn't still, in fact, a forehead. You see? 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. To the eyebrow, to the... You shut your mouth.
To which I might add, why do you think I'm wearing hats? But now, without further ado,
okay.
Let's have a look at all
I've covered
the
my basis. I've covered my basis. Okay, you guys saw my hairline, right? It's not why I'm wearing it.
Terra, the world of League of Legends. Right now, the world is separated into 10 main regions.
Wow,
but
10
these
main
10
regions
don't cover all the land on the map, so there are some mini zones.
Nice, neutral zones, good.
And the lore already revealed that there is gonna be another continent further to the east. That definitely sounds like a future expansion to me. In fact, it would be foolish to release all of these regions at launch.
Well,
you can easily turn...
Well, not necessarily. It depends on the big picture of stuff. I mean, I think you could still launch all of this. If you don't launch all of this, at least have it where it's like almost ready to go and you can create a fast curve to it. But it's important to not always, like, when you launch a game, don't constantly ride the honeymoon phase. Like, give it good content so people aren't feeling like, oh, what we just played is completely null and void because there's something coming out in like 8 months. You know, like have as long as they do that curve fine, that's totally fine. Even if they do expansions and whatnot, I mean, that's obviously a good sign for long-term support. But
into separate expansions. And because a lot of people already know and love these regions, the hype behind these expansions would be big. With that said, I know a lot of you would like to play as Shurimans or Ionians. And now you may be cursing me for suggesting that these would be expansions. But the lore can justify giving you these nations as playable races without having their regions. I'll show you how Riot can pull this off in a bit. First,
even when do you think this is going to launch?
Riot's MMO has to start
like 2 years?
The Northern Continent. This entire continent is called Valoran. Not Valorant, Valoran. And this is where the absolute core of this world is. The two main regions here are Demacia and Noxus. They are the two big rivals equivalent to the Horde and the Alliance. While I would like to say that Demacia is your classic normie human region, it's not really true. Runeterra doesn't really have a normal place. There is something cool happening in every region. And Demacia has racism. Okay, maybe not racism, because Demacia doesn't mind Yordles or Minotaurs, but they really hate mages. That's because in the past, their rivals almost annihilated half of the world using magic.
That's what I would be playing.
And so Demacia was built
I gotta steer clear from this part.
Forest. Therefore, Demacia is a really cool place where you can hide from magic. When it comes to the visuals of the zone, you can see a lot of lush fields, it is surrounded by mountains, but the iconic part of Demacia are the buildings. They are made of petricite, which is a combination of stone and the magic-absorbing wood. Because these ancient magic-absorbing trees were grey, all the buildings have a marble-like appearance. And yes, given what material they are using, all the buildings in Demacia also absorb magic. So should a mage visit this region, let's just say it's gonna be a painful experience.
Very cool.
On top of this, let's not forget...
It gives me like a very big, grand feeling to it, you know? Like, you look at this and this is grand, this is epic, there's tons of people, it's a stadium. And this is not what I needed today when I'm like choosing other games, man.
Say it's gonna be a painful experience. On
top
of
be a
this,
part of
let's
this.
not forget that Demacians
Please.
can weaponize petricite. They can turn it
Give me
into
access.
petricite steel, which gives you your classic anti-magic weapons, and you can sculpt petricite constructs which wake up after absorbing magic. Simply said, these guys just really don't like magic. The Iron...
So is this where the Arcane show is based off of? Like this area here? No, is it? Because they didn't, they encouraged magic, but then they were having problems with it. I can't remember.
They've been absorbing it
You get
for
to it?
years
Oh, okay.
now. And this is where the story would kick in. You see, the Marcians are so afraid of magic, they founded the Mage Seeker Order.
What's up, boys?
This is an order of people who hunt mages, they throw them into prison, and they torture them until their body gives up on magic. So yes, being a mage is a crime in Demacia. The thing is, people still get naturally born with magical abilities. You can't stop it from happening. So not only are there mages hiding in the royal court, right now there is a mage civil war happening in Demacia, where mages and people who don't hate mages rise up to fight for moral rights. So should we do some quests in this zone? This is gonna be the core story. Mages trying to overthrow racist leadership following old laws.
Already do
Main
combat.
enemy NPCs might be mages and witches. But I know what you're thinking now.
Mages and witches.
Don't worry. There will be plenty of boars to kill here too. Or at least there are loads of wolves here as well as
this is making me so
stags.
excited. I love
And we
RPGs.
can't forget the iconic Demacian
MMOs.
raptors. But further to the south we might find some crag beasts, tiny woolly elephants, and yes, of course in the Argent Mountains there are also dragons. Loads and loads of dragons. But that's about it for Demacia. Fun fact, the capital...
So this is a video that goes and talks about Riot's MMO. So I don't know how many people know, but Riot, the same game company that owns League of Legends, they're coming out with their own MMO. And I wasn't really sure like how far along they are, but this video kind of showcases how far they are along the project, what they are actually already have. Apparently, like, they have the foundation, the cities, a lot of different graphics, they have like different factions or classes, and so this guy's just kind of touching base on everything that's known about the game so far.
The city of Demacia is called the Great City of Demacia. Sounds dumb, but Runeterra was not the first one to come up with this. But thankfully the other regions are a bit more creative with their names. So now let's move away from the normie region and let's have a look at the badass region, Noxus. If you're planning on playing a warrior with oversized weapons and overcompensating lush hair, this is the region for you. This place actually has a long and badass history, but we really don't have the time to explain it.
I just love how grand this looks, man. When I think again of an MMO, I think of like just big worlds, big buildings, epic power, crazy crowds, big cities, big factions. Like, oh man, this is getting me excited.
So just know that originally it was built by the most badass warrior in the history of Runeterra. This motherfucker literally died on a mountain of corpses. And after he died, he was too angry to stay dead, so he just became the god of the underworld. When this guy lived, he built the Immortal Bastion, which is to this day the largest structure on the entirety of Runeterra. And currently he is banished underneath the Immortal Bastion, but only a few people know about it. So, you know, that's a future raid.
You more know about it now, huh?
Boss. Anyway, the Immortal Bastion is the capital city of the Noxian Empire, with Noxus being one of the most brutal nations in Runeterra. It is brutal because the nation is surrounded by rocky earth. It is hard to grow plants here, so Noxians are forced into conquering surrounding land for resources to survive.
Really good.
That's why when you go to the map you can notice that the Noxian territory is all over the place. It's because these are all the places Noxus has already conquered. Although, when I say it like that, you may imagine Noxus brutally raiding everything. But that's not true. They like to absorb the surrounding nations into their empire. After all, it's just more human resources. Most of the time, they only remove the royalty and they let the leaderless people join their empire. And that's because Noxus values strength above all. And rulers tend to not be good fighters. This is what you can see in the After Victory cinematic. They kill the king because he was weak and let everyone else join them. Fun fact, conquering nations is so iconic for Noxus they have their own saying. Kill them until they are family. So when it comes to the quests in Noxus, it is most likely going to be helping the Empire expand its territory. Although, this region has its own unique enemies too. Inside the Immortal Bastion, there is a cult known as the Black Rose. This cult is connected to the darkest of magics. So be ready to fight Hemomancers, witches, demons, and the Grey Legion, which is an army of soldiers revived with blood magic to fight for the Empire again. And when it comes to collecting 10 bear asses, here we have the native Drakehounds and Basilisks. Now, while Noxus and Demacia are the main rivals here, both of them are also constantly repelling raids from the north. So now, let's have a look at the Freljord. Just like pretty much any region on Runeterra, Freljord has a long history. But for the purpose of this video, just know that the maddening old gods known as the Watchers of the Void, who want to devour the entire reality only because it keeps waking them up, once tried to breach into reality here. They almost succeeded because they tricked the Ice Witch Lysandra into helping them. Fortunately, she realized how wrong she was, and she managed to freeze half of the kingdom with the Watchers still beneath them. So these days, the Ice Witch is the only person holding back the end of
Freljord confirmed Calgary
reality by keeping the Watchers frozen. So at some point in the future, you bet one of these woken up frozen Watchers is gonna be a raid boss. Now, when it comes to the NPCs, this is where things get diverse. First of all,
look, man, I was hyped for this game, and I'm only, what, 11 minutes into this video, and I am fucking amped right now.
Remember that the Freljord is brutally cruel. Everything is frozen, and survival is everything. So the first enemy here would be the wildlife. From Rhymefangs to Yetis to Druvasks to Elnuks to Mammoths to the worst of them all, Poros. Next we are going to fight the Freljordians themselves. There are 3 main tribes here. The Avarosans, who are quite peaceful.
I think what I'm gonna do, and if anybody has any of this citation, please DM me on Discord. We're gonna do some more video watch throughs. Maybe not today, but we'll go ahead and maybe do that tomorrow or something, of more of the Riot MMO stuff. So like any cinematics, any content that we can get on here, I would 100% want to watch this through with you guys.
The Winter's Claw, who are quite brutal, and the Frostguard, Lysandra's followers who hold back the Watchers. And let me tell you, these guys have some badass armor. Among the notable tribes, there are also the Ursine, which are shamans who worship the Volibear, the primal god of the wild who slowly turns his worshippers into twisted animalistic monstrosities. Speaking of which, yes, there are also the primal gods of Freljord. And finally, we need to talk about the Iceborn. When the Watchers tried to arrive here, they tainted the ice around them. This special ice is called the True Ice, and it is so dangerous you literally die if you touch it. However, the Watchers also tainted some people, giving them the ability to touch the ice. It is still extremely painful for them to hold a true ice weapon, but at least they can survive it. These people are known as the Iceborn. But people were not the only things that were tainted. There are also ice trolls, some of whom are also Iceborn. To be honest, these guys...
You know what I'm like seeing here? I don't know if these are all like playable classes, but I'm seeing some crazy diversity. Like sure, they're mentioning like certain mobs that you'll find in the area, but when they're going over like the city and the types of people, it seems like, you know, when you think about it, it was like one town or one city was like one type of person. Seems like in this, there's a city with multiple types of people within the same environment.
Were made to have their own dungeon. But there are also some animals that were twisted by the Watchers. And Lysandra is even twisting some beings herself to make them serve her. So overall, Freljord is gonna have a lot of cool warriors, shamans, and horrors. So these would be the 3 regions on the main continent. But this place is actually so big it can easily make the base world of the game. Especially since there are a bunch of smaller regions in between them. There is Nockmerge, full of witches, Argent Mountains with their dragons, Tokugol with void monsters, Dalamore Plains
Crazy.
with him, and so much more. But from here, you can cleverly set up the expansions because of how well everything is interconnected. So now, let's have a look at the continent to the east called Ionia. Ionia has a very close connection to Noxus. You can only guess why. It's because Noxians once tried to conquer it all during an event simply called the Invasion of Ionia. This was a horrible war full of using children.
Like, quick question to chat, like, is this all known in the League of Legends lore? Like, is this common knowledge, like what we're listening to right now? Like, if you were to play League of Legends, would you know this? Or would you have to, like, go a bit down the road and hunt all of it? Because this is really, really cool. It's crazy to me that League of Legends has such a girthy story, man. Like, the foundation is right here. They just need to implement it. They have so many of the assets already when you think about, like, you know, just the assets themselves. Anything from the actual designs to art styles to everything. Wild. Books and the cinematics. I see. Wild. Yeah, we're gonna have to compile a bunch of videos here to look through. Like, anything on Riot's MMO I want to know about.
As soldiers, because
you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm actually going to start a Discord section, and it's going to be for Riot's MMO. And what we'll do is we'll start crowdsourcing a bunch of, like, videos, any citation, any information that we get about this game. We're going to start putting it into it. Yeah, I'm going to watch. I'm going to try to get a playlist of videos, and we'll do like a little sit down watch thing week.
Noxians thought Ionians wouldn't fight back against children. And chemical weapons. Lots and lots of chemical weapons. Speaking of which, remember Singed from Arcane? He's the guy who chemically devastated Ionia. Eventually, Noxus failed, but they kept their
YouTube and
small
chill, straight up.
territories. So the first quest here could be simply...
Like, look at that, dude. It just looks so grand. I love stuff like this when it comes to an RPG. You know, like, look at how grand this ship is. Look at the people. You know, you see the people down here and the scaling of what this is. Like, it's so cool to me. And, like, I love that stuff.
Boarding a ship,
so grand.
Sailing over, and exploring the place for the Noxian Empire. Now, when it comes to Ionia itself, the place gets mystical. Everything here is alive and connected to the spirit of nature. And I mean everything, from the animals to the people to the buildings. Everything is alive. So if you anger Mother Nature, your house can twist and strangle you in your sleep. So you can only imagine how Mother Nature fought against Noxians. Usually a river came alive to drown them. That's why all the buildings here look like they were woven from wood. It's because they were. With nature magic, people let nature build their houses. It also means that sometimes your house can just walk away. When it comes to the NPCs here, obviously there is gonna be a lot of nature spirits. And a lot more of simply mystical animals. From giant flying tigers to the never-ending story. But be ready to also face local Ionians, blade masters, shadow cultists, murderers, and ninjas.
Oh, cool. Good, look at this guy. This guy looks badass.
Bad, and the in-between. But finally, there is also one more enemy that we could face. The furries. That's right, this race is known as the Vastaya. They are half humans and half magical animals. And yes, canonically, the species was born in exactly the way you are thinking. But to be fair, the Vastaya are quite cool and they are definitely gonna be a playable race. Just like Yordles, who also like Ionia a lot. Lastly, after Noxians ravaged Mother Nature, demons started occupying all the places filled with misery and doubt. So that's gonna be a nice bonus enemy. So yes, the exploration of Ionia and the raid on the Shadow Order could be a really cool first expansion. But it's definitely not Riot's only option, because we can also go south to Piltover and Zone. These are the ones people will know about, simply because this is where Arcane took place. Piltover and Zone are two massive cities located one above the other.
This is where Arcane.
And they are so massive.
Knew it, man. I knew that we would see these, like, see, this is why I say, you know, we were talking about it a little bit before, and like a lot of the times, just the way of the internet, people say, what's the WoW killer? I really think Riot does a lot of things intelligently. Not only have they done fantastic in League of Legends, but you know, they came out with a TV show because they knew that they were working on an MMO. What better way to get people talking about it that don't even like, it's such a synergy of their divisions, right? Like you create a show, you do it really well, people get super hyped about it, they start talking about it, and then bam, wait a second, Arcane the show is now part of a video game. Really, really smart the way that they're doing it.
They could easily be turned into their own playable zones. They are both focusing on futuristic technology powered up by magic.
Advertising done right, yeah.
Gemstones. Using this magic, they can power up anything from guns to augmented limbs to vehicles. Visually, it is simply futuristic Victorian era. And unfortunately, there wouldn't be much of enemy variety. We would likely fight the rich houses of Piltover and their deadly assassins, with the occasional thief on the streets, corrupt wardens, and the occasional rogue steam golem. But things get a bit more interesting in the undercity known as Zaun. Zaun is the dirty underbelly covered in thick toxic smoke. Because the majority of people are poor here, they developed a cheaper alternative to Hextech called Chemtech. This artificial green stuff can power up cheaper limb replacements, as well as highly unstable weaponry. Zaun is also controlled by the Chem Barons, which are obviously gonna be the main enemy here. But on the side, we may also meet some chemical mutants, unstable constructs, as well as some mass murderers and people who hunt down mass murderers. And funnily enough, at the very bottom of Zaun itself, there are the hidden ruins of an ancient city full of traps. That is obviously gonna be a cool dungeon. So yes, there is not much more that I can add here. Piltover and Zaun were simply explored in Arcane. So if you like the series, you are gonna like this place. From here, we can travel further south to Shurima. Shurima used to be a massive empire that ruled the world. But after the emperor got betrayed by his best friend, the entire empire collapsed. This region is a massive desert with the occasional city near a river. In the center of the region, there is the Sun Disk, a colossal piece of star metal that has the power to reflect celestial magic. The Shurimans use this celestial magic to turn their best soldiers into the Ascended, also known as the Golden God Warriors. However, these God Warriors wouldn't make a great enemy here. That's because after the Emperor had died, the Ascended started fighting for leadership. And slowly, after learning how to use blood magic to gain the edge, they morphed their own bodies and became the Darkin. Twisted, blood-frenzied monsters that would certainly make really cool raid bosses.
I was just gonna say, these look cool.
Besides this ancient evil, Shurima is also full of its own animals, raiders, dune scavengers, and on top of all of that, void creatures.
Ooh.
That's because to the south, there used to be a kingdom known as Icathia that wanted to destroy the Shuriman Empire. So, they asked the Watchers for help. You can imagine how that went. The Watchers sent through some void beasts that consumed Icathia and polluted Shurima to this day. To fight back the void, Shurima does have a lot of hidden tombs around with hidden god warrior weapons. Not to mention that Shurima also has a circle of time mages who are trying to freeze the void in time. Now, as I mentioned near the beginning of the video, even if Shurima becomes an expansion, they can still easily make Shurimans a playable race because they are already connected to Noxus. As you can see, of course, Noxians already conquered part of Shurima, so some Shurimans are fighting for Noxus. Also, as a cool fact for those of you who liked Arcane, Hex Crystals are harvested in Shurima. That's why a Shuriman expansion would be a great follow-up to Piltover and Zaun. And again, that's why Riot can easily turn only the northern continent into the base world.
I really think that it looks like there's so much diversity in terms of what could be playable in this game. I'm really interested about this.
From Shurima, we arrive at Mount Targon. This place is incredibly unique. First of all, this mountain is not natural. It was literally pulled up from the ground by celestial gods. And that's because this place serves as a portal to the celestial realm, also known as Targon Prime. Now, because this mountain was pulled up, it also has some unique features. For example, you may find frozen lakes frozen horizontally on the mountain. And the very peak of the mountain is special too. Should a mortal reach the peak despite the brutal climate and the deadly wildlife, either they die from exhaustion, or the celestial gods deem them worthy.
Dude, we need to see all these videos.
Aspect. There is aspect of war, aspect of the sun, aspect of the moon, aspect of the twilight, aspect of the guardian, and so on. Simply said, after people reach the peak, they become some of the strongest beings on the entire planet. So of course, the mountain is full of people who worship the celestial demigods. And I speculate this is where we could get a lot of cool armor sets. There are the Solari, who are devoted to the aspect of the sun. Then there are their rivals, the Lunari, who are devoted to the aspect of the moon. But also the tribe I assume will become a playable class, the Warriors of Rakor. Of course, besides just humans, Targon also has all sorts of furry Vastaya. Near the bottom of the mountain,
this one seems like very plentiful for diversity.
But also there are Stellarcorns, a variety of mind-bending creatures, and loads of dragons. Speaking of which, remember that this place is linked to the Celestial Realm. So this is where we may also meet the star-forging Celestial Dragon Aurelian Soul, as well as all sorts of other celestial beings. A lot of these would make for interesting bosses. In fact, the ascension of Mount Targon would be a really cool raid. Next, on the other side of Shurima, there is
talking about raids, like I wonder if we actually know any details about what that actually would look like in terms of like player count, etc.
This is a special place where people are mastering the elemental magic. They are using it for everything: fishing, smithing, walking, and this place is definitely gonna be saved for an expansion. Basically, remember when Icathian asked the Watchers for help?
An MMO gameplay.
And then that happened? Ishtal
it's about
was
the
their
art
neighbor,
and the concepts.
after they saw the Void devour an entire kingdom, they believed the Void would soon devour the entire world. So, using their elemental magic, Ishtal built massive walls of plants around their entire region, isolating themselves from the rest of the world. For 3,500 years, Ishtal stayed isolated, believing that the world outside of their walls was devoured by the Void. But now, very recently, some mages found out that the world outside is completely fine. So now, the Ishtali mages are slowly revealing themselves. To be honest, Ishtal is the most underdeveloped region in Runeterra. We know the region has a lot of hunting Vastaya, deadly plants and some elemental dragons, but most of the region is still a mystery to us. So at least here, Riot will have the freedom to try something new. But now, we'll leave the main continent
and there's so much content here, that's wild.
First of all, there is Bilgewater. If you like pirate adventures, this is gonna be your place. This is where we are going to explore inns and gambling dens, even some local temples worshipping the god of motion, Nagake Boros. Here we are going to fight pirates and sea monsters, sea witches, sea Vastaya, maybe some demons. And possibly we'll side with Sarah Fortune to fight the king of the pirates, Gangplank. But there's a lot more here. Last year, Riot released their RPG, which was set in Bilgewater. So not only can we already explore this place in detail, but it even has...
Right. Yo, I forgot about that game. They came out with like an RPG, didn't they? What was it called again? I think he even said it. Yo, I totally forgot about that game. It was free, wasn't it? It was a free like RPG that they came out with. I totally forgot about that game.
Gangplank. But there's a lot more here. Last year, Riot released their RPG, which was set in Bilgewater. So not only can
Runes
we
of
already
Runeterra, something like
explore
that.
this
Yeah,
place
that sounds
in
right.
detail, but it even has a monster
I think
journey.
that's right.
And at a quick glance, you can already
totally
see
forgot
some
about that game.
really cool bosses too. However,
Anybody in chat play that game? Runes of Runeterra? Or Rune King, that sounds... Rune King. Yeah, Rune King, a League of Legends story. Anybody play it? Legends of Runeterra is a card game. Roger. The Rune King is what it was. A League of Legends story, story-driven, turn-based, role-playing RPG. Maybe that's a game that we could play. Oh, I love turn-based RPGs.
This place is also linked to the last place I want to show you today. The Shadow Isles. See, every year the horrors of the Shadow Isles lurk out, and Bilgewater just happens to be the closest place. So every year, Bilgewater is fighting the undead. Once upon a time, the Shadow Isles used to be the Blessed Isles, a rich place full of advanced magic. Long story short, there was a young asshole king who wanted to revive his dead queen, and in the process he accidentally released dark necromantic magic. This magic destroyed the island and made it home for undeath. In the lore, this event is called the Ruination, and because the RPG is called the Ruined King, it may not be a surprise to you that you also get to explore the Shadow Isles there. And there they have anything you can imagine. Undead horrors creeping everywhere. And should we ever venture into these islands? I have no idea whom we're going to fight. The Ruined King who caused all of this is banished elsewhere. Thresh, who siphoned his magic after he was banished, also left the Isles. And even Hecarim, the most brutal soldier of them all, is currently around Demacia. So the Shadow Isles don't currently have a main baddie. So this is where Riot could push forward some of the side characters. Now, even though these have all been the regions that are currently set up on Runeterra, Riot has already confirmed that there is a new continent further to the east. Currently, it is planned to be revealed in the upcoming Ruination novel. And so far, we know that this new continent is where the Ruined King Viego is from. And this is also where he was banished at the end of his story. All we know about that place is that it is quite mystical. There are yet more dragons here.
Spoilers.
And in fact, Kamavor, which is the Ruined King's nation, has a lot of draconic armor.
Looks
so
cool.
Should Riot run out of places to explore, don't worry, they can always make up more. But that's all I wanted to show you today. As someone who's been following the lore of League of Legends from the very beginning, I can tell you, I'm very confident the setting of Riot's MMO is gonna be great. Their incredible writers have been preparing the world for years now. And now, it's time to harvest the fruit. If you like this video, let me know in the comments below.
Oh yeah,
because
we will.
Right now, I still have 3 more topics that I could talk about in regards to the MMO. I especially want to talk about the potential raid bosses we can face, and the potential classes we could play. And as someone who has collected an unholy amount of transmog, I would love to show you all the cool armor sets this universe has. But that's it for this video. See you in 6 to 8 years when the MMO gets released.
Boys, go give this guy some love. We just did a little watch through there. Definitely gonna sub to this dude. Well, League of Legends is so popular. It's like one of the most popular games in the world. And so when you think about like the organic community pot boiling over, it's gonna be huge. This is cool. It's got me excited, boys. This has got me excited. You don't know if you could start another MMO, you'll miss. No, you won't. There's another MMO that's actually here's the thing with World of Warcraft. I feel like they're getting lazy. I don't know what it is. I feel like they're getting lazy. They're really only putting a lot of effort in certain spots, and they're not really thinking about it as a whole. A massive multiplayer online video game. You have to appreciate and work on so many different elements, whether it be, you know, they're more worried about going through the cycles of things. I don't know. It seems stale to me. They're very complacent, man. Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a lack of passion. They've been complacent because they have been such a strong presence in the MMO space for so long. Fantastic video. Look forward to watching more of these exclamation mark. Classic versions for sure, right? Yeah, exactly. Even myself too. I mean, I had a ton of fun on WoW Classic. I didn't think I was going to enjoy WoW Classic as much as I did, but I had a blast. I lost 2 years two-ish years of playing Classic because I was just having a ton of fun. I love that this dude I love that this dude did it in his PJs. I love it, man. Fantastic. This guy says it well. This was an incredibly well done video. You kept me fully engaged for the entire 30 minutes. In this day and age of scrolling, it's hard to keep a viewer for more than a few seconds. Really well said. He did a really good job. I think we were all just wondering whether or not he was going to mount his mic or not. Really, let's be honest.